It's the Bionicle Inspiration series. We're back, and today what we're going to be talking about is color schemes, but I specifically wanted to focus on really kind of bold and out there color schemes that use a lot of really bright, in-your-face, bold colors, and that can actually be a little bit multicolored too, you know? I know that's something we all, for the most part, did. We had those very kind of rainbow warrior mocks, which were very, very colorful, and you didn't worry about a good color scheme. You just kind of shoved all the pieces together. These are the sort of mocks you built when you were a bit younger, sort of thing. But I think there's still, a bit of merit to a bit more of a colorful color scheme. And so we want to focus on that today and see the sort of subtle ways that you can use a lot of different colors and still have a mock really shine. And see how we can differentiate it from some of those rainbow warrior mocks that we might have made when we were a bit younger. So, let us get started, shall we? Let's talk about some bold colour schemes. The first mock we've got today is by Anthony Wilson, and it's called Marrow of the Earth. So this is actually the mock that kind of inspired this episode, because I think it's utterly gorgeous and uses colours in some really, really fantastic ways. So one of the reasons I really like this is how Anthony has beautifully contrasted the black and white colour scheme of this sort of skeleton character with this black cloak, and how that's being contrasted up against all these different, very vibrant leaf colors. It's just exquisite, and I think contrast is such an important thing just to know about and just to play around with, you know. Can you have some very kind of drab, dull colors, like the black and the white, and then put it up against the complete opposite, really bright and in your face? Because it can create a really unique result, you know. You see it all the time in different, advertising, movies, art, design, all sort of different stuff, where people will do that. They'll deliberately put something that is one thing and then something that's the direct opposite next to it, that kind of juxtaposition of the two of them. And it just creates a really nice result. And heck, these colors really pop as a result. And this mock really pops as a result, you know? I had plans for other episodes this week, but then I saw this mock and I was like, oh, there's just something unique about it, you know? So I think this is just a fantastic example of having really bright contrasting colors. So look into that next time you're building, you know? If you're currently building with a black or a sort of darker color, could you partner it with a very bright and in-your-face color? Because, hey, it might just work really well like we see here. So something to think about. Something else I like is the fact that all of the different colors on this are all more or less the same specific piece. We see that little three-leafed, one-by-one sort of leaf piece here in yellow, orange. We also see it in different shades of green, blue, pinks, and purples, all sorts of stuff there. It's kind of just that piece. Of course, there's other stuff too, but it's mainly that piece repeated a whole bunch. And that's cool. That's really cool. What I like about that is it does give it a sort of sense of consistency. You know, we spoke about before when you have your Rainbow Warrior mocks, you just pile on any kind of piece that you pick up and you put on. But the fact that these colors are all the exact same piece does give it a bit more sort of control. I suppose it doesn't feel as kind of wild and untamed. I feel like the best kind of art and the best kind of design is the stuff where the choices that are made on it are very deliberate, and you don't really put a piece on without having a reason for it to be put on, you know? That's not to say when you're building it, you have to spend 7 hours being like, why am I doing this? What is the philosophical reason? And does it make sense? You know, not necessarily, but just, you know, sometimes you can, as you're building something, just kind of shove something on and go like, yeah, whatever. But sometimes it's wise to kind of challenge those decisions and see, you know, is it actually kind of feeding into the larger sort of story that you might want to tell with the mock, or the kind of atmosphere you're looking to create with it. You know, it's just something to think about. So that's why I love the fact that these pieces are being repeated here in these different colors, because it controls it a little bit. It makes it a little less sort of wild and sort of strips it back a little bit and makes it more easy to approach, easy to look at, I guess, more visually pleasing. It's just really, really nice. It's really solid. Some other stuff that's really solid about this, not so much focusing on the color scheme, is the base on this mock here. I think the fact that this skeleton guy is standing in this really beautiful, vibrant, beautifully colored sort of jungle flower area with a little lake there is just a really nice sight to behold. Again, it helps the contrast there, and it's always nice to see a little base or little vignette underneath a mock just to give it a bit more context and really pack in some storytelling. I also like, too, the fact that the base is circular like that, too. I imagine that's being created with a variety of different hinge plates just to create that circle design there. Just nice seeing it as a circle, you know? It's a lot easier to build your rectangles and your squares with Lego, so when you're able to push the boundaries there, pun slightly intended, you can get some really nice results, and it just really shines. Final thing I like about this, then we'll move on. I love the water design here and how It slightly sinks a little bit when the skeleton dude here is standing in it, so that, it's as if the water is kind of flowing over his toes and it's a little bit more sort of shallow water. It's cool. It's really cool. It's a fun little detail, very slight, but I think it goes a long way and looks really cool. It's those little details, So, love your work, Anthony Wilson. Great job. Let's move on to the next mock. This is by Rock Monster 2000, and it's called Briarwood Fairy. The description here says, a small spirit that fiercely protects its wooden glen. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I adore what this is doing with color. The reason that I like this so much is because the color is and isn't actually on the mock. If you take away some of those leaves at the base of this fairy here, it kind of loses a little bit of that touch. Yes, there's a little bit of the beautiful lavender small leaf pieces around the wings, which really, really shines on this mock here. But the simple addition of just adding some little leaves at the bottom of it when you photographed it actually goes quite a long way at really making this stand out. And I love that. So maybe you're building something and you're about to photograph it to post it online. Can you put some little fun details around it that aren't actually attached to the mock? Maybe it's not even an actual physical base. It's just some little piece additions at the bottom. Because I think the inclusion of the purples and the sort of... I'm bad with some of my friends' colors. I don't always know the exact names for each of them, but there's there's lavender, there's that purple color, and then there's that sort of more magenta color. Maybe those aren't the official names for the pinks and the purples and all that, but hey, they're there and they look really cool. And those really bright, bold colors, once again, contrast with the blacks and the whites here. It's beautiful. But let's focus on the mock itself, less the stuff around it. Again, I love the fact that he's included those smaller lavender leaves there. They really, really shine up against the black and white. And also the lime eyes as well. Another really bright, bold color that really contrasts with the rest of it. It's super cool. But I think what also works so well with this is he's building this kind of fairy, fantasy-like creature. Some sort of little thing that you might see walking around some sort of mystical, magical forest in some elven world or fantasy realm, And I think the choice of using some of these friends' colors, or elves' colors even, more or less the same thing, the choice of doing that, having these pinks and purples in there, really, really effectively works with sort of fantasy fairy-like creatures. And I honestly adore that. If you are building something that is a little bit more fae, a little bit more fairy, a little bit more magical and mystical, maybe it's worth leaning towards some of those colors. And you can have just, very small amounts of them like we see here. Just the very subtle inclusion of some of those lavender leaves, and instantly you're taken away to a fairy world. It's cool. It's really cool. So, no, I adore that. I really, really adore that. Overall, a fantastic little mock. Very tiny, very petite, very fun. Very much kind of fits with that kind of fairy feel. I also love, too, the proboscis that's coming out of his little mouth there. That Indiana Jones whip piece that's all sort of curled up and doing crazy things. Makes him look a little bit more almost sort of dragonfly-like. But he does still sort of have this slight humanoid look to him. Or she. I don't want to assume it's gender. Yeah. Really, really solid, great use of colours, and a very deliberate use of colours too, because it's communicating that fairy feeling we were talking about before. Really, really nice. Let's move on to a mock by Joxon. This is called Slizzk the Snatcher. I was about to say Scatcher, but that was because Slizzk... That's a tongue twister, that is. Say that 3 times fast. Slizzk the Snatcher. Yeah, alright. So this is super cool. I love... how Joxon has included some of these very nice dot bracelet pieces. If you've seen some of the waves of dot sets that have been coming out, they're beautiful sets. I've done reviews on them and stuff. I utterly adore them. And the reason I adore them so much is because you get a lot of really bold, beautiful, bright colors. And you also get a lot of really nice sort of detail parts and just crazy weird things like these bracelets here, which are obviously physical, actual bracelets. But it's great to see Joxon using them here on a mock to create this really nice reptilian sort of, I don't know, sort of slimy, curved look to it. It fits the look of a reptile very well, whether that's the textures on it or just the kind of natural shape that it creates. It's really nice. So, hey, that's what I love so much about dots in general, is just the fact that these pieces are so out there and different. And it really just encourages you to create really unique designs and use the parts in very clever ways. So, yeah, look, in all honesty, what a great idea. Buy some dot sets, get those fancy weird colors, and use those pieces in weird ways and get amazing stuff like this. If you've been inspired so far by this episode, you want to play with those crazy bold colors, that's the place to go for sure. Even some friend sets as well, might be another thing to approach, because that's where you can get some of those more beautiful colors that we were looking at before. But there's all sorts of different stuff, just have a look at some of the sets next time you go to the shops and see what different kind of pieces and colors you might want to play around with there. But yeah, like I said, a beautiful kind of reptile look for this mock. I love the eye design. I actually can't tell what those eyes are. I think that's some sort of sticker, the white sort of stripe there. I at first thought it was a rubber band, but I don't think it is. I have no idea what that is. I'm sure someone in the comments will explain. Someone will let me know, but yeah, I don't know what that is, but those eyes look fantastic, very reptilian-like, and just a kind of great general sort of shape to this mock. It very much looks like a crazy, weird, unique lizard-like character. It's truly a sight to behold. So love your work, Jocks, and let's move on to the next mock. It's by Eo Okononen, and this one is called Herald of the Carp Speeder. So this is such a cool mock. Eo is just... he's such a good builder, man. He plays with color in a fantastic amount of different ways. And so I kind of struggled to pick just one mock that he's made that uses big, bold, in-your-face colors. And this is the one I picked, but be sure to check the links in the description, because there's a plethora of other stuff that you can look over if you want to continue to look at some crazy colored mocks. So what I like so much about this is the use of these beautiful coral pieces. So coral, of course, is this sort of almost sort of salmon red kind of color that you see used all across this mock here. And I believe at the time this was posted, that coral piece was only sort of just coming out, or had maybe been out a year or so from now. I don't fully remember, to be totally honest with you, but coral is a fairly recent addition to the LEGO color palette, and it's a beautiful addition. What a lovely color. But when you take a closer look at this mock here, he's kind of only really using about 3 pieces in that coral color. Maybe a couple more, maybe I'm missing a few. Those pieces, of course, being those sort of quarter tile pieces, which you can see on the waist there. Those are those dots pieces. I immediately see a 4th piece there. He's using one of those 1x2 curved slope pieces that's on the sort of side of her waist there as well. He's also using some of these very much larger kind of curved tile pieces there, so for the kind of, I don't know, ears or sort of tail on the back of this character here. And then he's using a bunch of these different literal kind of coral pieces for these coral colors, whether that's the seahorses, the little octopus, the shells, all the different stuff there that kind of technically counts as one piece. If you look it up in the instruction manual and other stuff, it comes as that sort of larger conglomerate of pieces. It's very similar to like the antennas and the ARC Trooper gear in Star Wars sets. But all those pieces are often grouped together, or not often, are always grouped together in specific sets. And again, those came in a lot of friend sets as well. So what I like so much about this is coral is a fairly new piece. There's not a huge amount of pieces that you can play around with in coral. But Eo's kind of only really used, like I said, 3 or 4, maybe 5 different pieces in these coral colors. And so, yeah, just kind of buying them in some larger quantities, or doing that, buying a dot set or 2, which actually comes with a good large amount of those individual dots pieces, the sort of quarter tiles there. And then suddenly you'll just have a larger amount of 1 or 2 different pieces there, and then you can really play with those colors there, and you can really shine with a newer color. I think it's just really nice, So that's certainly something to think about. When a new piece comes out, well, it's often really fun to just play around with it, because, hey, sometimes playing with color is just a good fun experience. But also, what sort of sets can you look into that can give you slightly larger quantities of it, so that you can use some of these newer and exciting pieces, but you don't necessarily need huge quantities of them in, huge quantities of different pieces. You can just get slightly larger quantities of 1 or 2 pieces, and then really dive in with them. So, yeah, something to consider, something to think about. Some other stuff I like about this mock is the finger design on this, using some of those skeleton hand pieces in tan to create more humanoid-like fingers. Works really well. And another thing I quite like too is the dress design on this mock, using these printed surfboard pieces. Sometimes you get a printed piece and you're kind of like, yeah, this would be a lot better if it didn't have the print on it, because, I don't know, just sometimes the print doesn't work, or it's a little difficult to use. But it's amazing seeing AO use that printed piece in just such a flawless, beautiful way here. And again, totally plays into this bold color scheme that this mock has here, of having this sort of unique, fun kind of pattern on her dress there, because she has green hair, she's got a yellow top, and all these other different salmon details as well. or coral details, my bad. So yeah, she just seems like this very sort of fun, vibrant, positive kind of character here, so it makes sense that her dress would have this sort of printed pattern on it. So yeah, amazing use of a printed piece there, really, really putting that to good use. One final thing I like about this character is the inclusion of all of the different colors here. So the way that he's kind of made them be a little bit more controlled and a little less chaotic is through color blocking. So of course, the blue is all focused there in the one area. The salmon details are all sort of blocked in little segments in different places on the mock. The yellow, of course, is same thing, blocked in the one area. And the green just being localized on the hair there. There's no yellow in other kind of weird places, or it's all not sort of misplaced in any fashion there. Really kind of blocking out those colors really helps to make a more bold and vibrant color scheme. It really helps to make it a little bit more visually pleasing and not as distracting or out there or a bit weird, you know what I mean? So, again, fantastic. Really, really love your work. Great use of some bold colors. Let's move to a mock now by Tino Pautonen, and it's called Glass Cerberus. So, I adore this mock. I really adore this mock. And to some degree, you could argue, well, this isn't as bold of a color scheme. But, you know, not for nothing. I think don't ever underestimate the fact that just, you know, using red or using yellows, you know, some of those more kind of brighter colors, just simply using one different color like that can actually go quite a long way and still look good, you know? Using red and all that sort of stuff is a little bit more common, a piece to use with Bionicle and all that. But, well, actually, you say that. Yeah, some of the more brighter colors aren't as common in some of the sort of later CCBS sets. So, maybe not as true. Maybe not as true. But besides the point, you don't always need to use big, bold, in-your-face colors and using multiple of them as well. Sometimes you can just have one or two and it's just the same. It's perfectly fine, you know? And I like this here. But to some degree, it does use another sort of more unique color, the trans clear there, partnered up with the red and a few other little details as well. And I love that. This, of course, like you said, is Glass Cerberus, the name of the mock here. It very much looks like his entire body is made out of glass, and then you can see all the different sort of organs and veins and guts and all sorts of other stuff through that glass there. It kind of looks like some sort of weird, crazy thing you might find in a laboratory or some sort of, you know, science aid or something, where it's sort of like a glass version of someone's heart, and you can see all the different blood and things pumping around inside, you know. It's just really, really creative and really unique. A great way of using that trans clear color there. And also that too, I think this mock too just sort of symbolizes the idea of just using colors in really unique ways to achieve really unique looks or feels, you know. Often when you see kind of trans clear stuff being used, it's used for maybe like the windshield of a spaceship, or it could be some sort of, you know, expression of the power that they might have. The trans clear could be some sort of magic or water that they're sort of manipulating or something. But it's cool to actually see it being used as glass because, well, you know, it makes sense. So yeah, really think outside the box of some of the colors. You know, what sort of stuff actually is that color in the real world, and how could you then represent that on your character as well? It's a fun thing to think about. Some other fun things, I love the skull design on this mock here. The fact that it is using some of those Technic bricks, the 1x2 brick with 2 holes on the side there, and then attaching some other different studs, cheese slopes, all sort of stuff like that to create a very simplistic, very well-designed little skull there. Very nice to see. And I also love the kind of guts and internal organs here, using some Zamospheres, what appears to be some rubber bands, some studs, all sort of stuff there in different colors to represent different internal organs. It's really, really cool. Really creepy, but really cool. But yeah, hey, I think this is just such a great example of just kind of thinking outside the box with different colors and seeing what kind of look you can achieve with them. And especially really focusing on how you can partner some of those colors with other colors as well to achieve a specific look, in this case being a glass sort of skinned character with internal organs showing through. It's creepy, but it's pretty cool. So love your work, Tino. Let's move on to the last mock now. Bit of a shorter episode, but still a good one. This is by Shubi4000, and this is called Duskmoor, Assassin Extraordinairé. So I really quite like this. Very, very bold color scheme here, using some of these azure kind of medium azure, sort of a medium blue, more of a sort of, yeah, no, I think it's azure. I don't know. But then combining that with this bright light green as well. I struggle a bit with figuring out the exact color of this sort of azure piece, because it is not actually an official Lego piece. So this mock here is using some third-party pieces here I don't think they're 3D printed. I think they're from some sort of clone brand. I'm sure someone can correct me on what specific set those are from, or clone brand set they're from. I don't know. I'm not a big expert on things that aren't Lego, to be fair. But yeah, hey, I think that's still pretty cool. And especially that too. If you are interested on going on like AliExpress or, I don't know, looking around eBay and other sort of places and looking at some of those sort of third-party sets or some of those clone brand sets or some of your knockoff brands and things, and you want to play around with some of the specific uniquely colored pieces that came on those sets, well, they'd be perfect for some of the more bold color schemes that we're talking about today. Plus, too, you get to play around with some weirdly shaped, very different Lego pieces as well, which is always fun. But regardless, like I said, azure is a color that's very close to that. There's also a variety of other different blues, like teal, and a whole other variety of different blues that you can play around with that would partner very well up against the bright light green here. So even though these are non-official pieces, you could fairly easily replicate this color scheme with existing colors and existing pieces. But yeah, those two colors partnered up against each other there. Beautiful. I love too how that bright light green perfectly complements Umarak's mask here, but that is that sort of more trans kind of neon green. But those colors, even though they are different, they work quite well when they're used in unison there. So hey, that's cool. That's really cool. I like that. So yeah, certainly some nice color play going on here. And something else that I think's worth noting. Bright light green there came on the various G2 Liwa sets. That azure color is very close to the official Lego azure color that came on Gully. And pretty much all of the G2 Bionicle sets had some more sort of bold, really bright colors on them. So, hey, if you've got some of those G2 sets, play around with those colors and use them in some bold and weird ways, because, hey, those sets just naturally had some really good colors that you can play around with. Final detail on this one here, I love the gun here. Just looks nice, but also in terms of the color scheme, it is a little bit more drab. It's just kind of mainly black there. But then it has the inclusion of this beautiful sword that came on Black Phantom, the Hero Factory set. And that, of course, has, again, that sort of beautiful, big old bright, translucent green here. And that really makes the gun pop, you know? I think that's something to just think about. If you are building a weapon for a mock, is it looking a little drab? Is it only one color? It might work perfectly well if it is only one color. But if you want to make it pop a little bit more, add some sort of translucent color onto it, or just some other color that's very different to the current color that it is. And it can go a long way and make it look a lot more sort of just unique and different and cool. I think this is a great example of that. So hey, a fantastic mock using some non-official pieces, but it works really well. And it could easily be achieved with existing colors as well. So that's been this beautiful episode on some beautiful, bold colors. Hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you've been inspired. I know a good color scheme is always a good little inspiration point for many, so hopefully it inspired you. If you're interested in seeing some more of the mocks that these builders have made, be sure to check the links in the description below, because there's links to their stuff there. You can check it on out. You can even comment on their mocks if you so please. I'm sure they'll appreciate that. Additionally as well, there's links in the description to the submission email for the Bionicle Inspiration series. So if you want to see some of your own mocks on the show, that's the way to do it. Send some pictures and whatever information you want to that email. I'll add it to the list, and one day it'll appear on the show. But your patience is, of course, key, because there's a lot of submissions I got to work through, but I'll do my best to include your mock in a future episode. Additionally, as well, there are links to my social media. I have a cool project coming out soon that I'm just sort of putting some finishing touches on. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool indeed. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm kind of in this cool sort of period now where I'm sort of done with university, and I'm just sort of spending a bit of time relaxing, just kind of doing a few projects that I really wanted to get done while I was doing uni, but I didn't have the time. So yeah, I'm in a fun sort of relaxed stage at the moment. But you know, once I get some of these immediate projects out of the way, I can really focus on doing a few more unique YouTube videos and a few more unique posts, and posting that mysterious mock that I just spoke about. So, hey, stay tuned. Stuff's coming real soon. But first, Ben's got some chores that he needs to get done. So, in due course. But hey, there's a bit of excitement and hype. Get ready. It's coming soon. New stuff is coming soon. All right. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you in the next episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. Happy building, and bye for now.